my dream where you'd grown so tall, and how you were small when that major seventh interlude had crashed. Small when that major seventh interlude had crashed. After 8, approaching 9, the golden gate, the dancing wine. I always loved your grand piano until that day you swam the channel, see that moonbeam had cucumber wings. Sadly he cried, they've I haven't been to Athens, although I've read the book. I never owned a palace. At times I tried to look, daydream in my class, reckon up I'd finished last. I sealed my wheel of fortune when I was what I am. I wore my favorite sandals, I ate the food I can. One long piercing glance, enough to break a severed lance. runs between our tunnel. Shout, I am here, shaking fear, look and learn. In the sun, stretched in South Carolina Bay, the three-legged table is one. This time was detached, but I rolled around. I never was scratched. I drank all the resistance is chosen and war has ensued. Nothing else could define us, so I baked my nose in the sun. Stretched in South Carolina Bay, the three-legged table is one. Nothing else could define us, so I baked my nose in the sun. Stretched in South Carolina Bay, the three-legged table is one. She climbs all the mountains to fool with you. She never does the one thing you expect her to. Underneath the cliff top, hanging by her teeth, this girl will find adventure right there at your feet. Dora, the female explorer, has gone. Sleep, rain or windy weather rarely keeps her in. If you want to make her happy, just ask her where she's been. Dora, the female explorer, has gone. Dora, the female explorer, has gone.
shooting down the rapids or diving fathoms deep. Dora keeps you busy, she never lets you sleep. Rain or windy weather rarely keeps her in. If you want to make her happy, just ask her where she's been.
Conjunction. was overdue. It's good to be alive, although the roof is leaking too. 40 missing floorboards, 50 frantic far out mice below.
The little room I saw you in on Saturday, my legs were genuflecting in the rain. I often dream of moonbeams on the motorway.
It really is a shame, Friday in the bar, it's the nicest day of all. It's time to rise and shine, because we must collect the dough. The old tin kettle's boiling, and Murray's joined us for our breakfast too. The little room I saw you in on Saturday, my legs were genuflecting in the rain. I often dream of movies on the motorway. It really is a shame.
Used to plod on the routes that crossed the countryside, for he would not catch a bus to ride, and his moldy dungarees he'd worn for 40 years. The only liquid he consumed was frozen beer. Old Tin Lips was his friend. When they joined the Boy Scouts Jamboree, they destroyed my brother's charity, and together they dissected several cardboard slugs. Marzo kept a few of them in greasy mugs. Oh, Marzo, Marzo. When a boy would delight in all adversity, for he would not leave the nursery. He was most annoyed to find he could not spell his name. The letters must have fallen down a local drain. He wandered to and fro in the midst of blissful ignorance. He observed a constant vigilance. Purple spaceships used to land on Latin Bowling Green. Marzo fight the aliens, steel-plated beams. Oh, Marzo, Marzo. To thrash his rhubarb frantically, while his left hand was tied to his uncle's knee. He would pick a speck of pepper from the morning dew. He even washed his overcoat in compost glue, for no one would believe that he was born in 1563. Yet he's the youngest of his family, and his father still is working for the CIA. Marzo is the strangest man alive today. Oh, Marzo, Marzo. careering along in my creosote car. From Kabibel to Ken, I didn't get very far. The sky turned black and a dark cloud grew. The monster slug came into view. Slug to pass me by. I've done nothing wrong, I don't wanna die. He scooped me up in his huge grey claws and bore me away without any